Hello and welcome to another episode of the podcast Leap with Jackpot. My name is Saheed Adepoju, and today I want to talk about what international students should do in the second Trump candidate presidency. One of the things that I got back from most people that watched my other video was that they didn't know what to do. Since I have been through it, could I outline some of these things? So I'm going to outline 8 different categories. What you should do as an international student in the Trump presidency. First category is documentation. Make sure you have your documentation. What do I mean? Make sure you have some form of ID that was issued by a US entity. The easiest one to get as an international student is the state ID. So whatever state you are in, you can easily search for the requirements for a state ID and the state will issue you one. It's always preferable that you walk around with such an issued ID rather than your international passport, which most of you would know that if that gets lost, that would be a big problem. So that's the first thing. The easiest thing to get is that. The next step that is a bit better is a driver's license. So if you already drive, it will be preferable that you get a driver's license. Same requirement, the only additional requirement to a state ID is that you would require for you to pass the test and for you to take an actual driving test. So those are the 2 sets of ID that I would start with. Secondly, the other things on the documentation that I would say is you keep a copy of your I-94. I-94 is the record that you legally crossed into the country. It means that you were seen at the port of entry and you have a record. Now, most of the policies that President Trump is currently outlining is going after people that crossed illegally, meaning people that came in through the border. So that's the current situation. So make sure you have your I-94. Also, keep a copy of your I-20. Your I-20 is what's your documentation from the school that outlines essentially why you're here. It gives you the information about your course of study. It tells you your duration of study and every other information about your DSO, your name, your date of birth. Always keep a copy of that on your phone. Take a picture, keep it on your phone. It's very vital to have this information handy. Also, make sure if you have a social security number, which you may do as an international student, take a copy of that and save it as well. Make sure you have it in a very safe location. So I think that's a summary of the documentation that you need. The next thing is your immigration status. First and foremost, please stay in status. Your school DSO consistently checks with the school if you're registered with the prerequisite number of classes you're supposed to take. You're supposed to be in full-time status. You should never be in part-time status as an international student on an F1. You should also be aware of the requirements for online classes. So do not take online classes do not take too many online classes because as an international student, your teaching is supposed to be in person. So be aware of that. And the DSO regularly sends information to USCIS and they don't call you. They won't call up on you and say, hey, you're not going to class. The moment they see that you are not in class, you will be reported to USCIS. And the reason why this DSO takes it so important is because they recertify every year to be DSO officers. So if they have a strike against them for not reporting immigration violations in time, they get in trouble. So be aware that they are protecting themselves and doing their jobs. Also, if you have any address changes, if you change your address while you're in school, you are to notify your DSO of your change of address. So if you move from on campus to off campus or you move off campus somewhere else, always initiate a communication with your DSO and always update your address with them. It's very vital. It's the law. You have to keep a record of your address. Next, please file your taxes. Yes, you might be wondering, why should I file taxes? It's the law. File your taxes, even if you did not work, as long as you have a social security number, please file your taxes. You have to do that in order to remain compliant. You do not want to give anybody an excuse to put a crosshair on you and to say you're not following the law, because every single thing matters. Next, make sure you plan your OPT in advance and CPT, whichever one. So if you're going on an internship, please let your DSO know. Your DSO is not a mind reader. they will require enough time. They have to put in things into the system. I don't know how the back-end system works. I'm not a DSO, but I presume that there will be times where you cannot put in records because the time is too short. So make sure you let them know on time. Let them know your plans. If you're going on internship, find out from them. Is it a 3-month internship? Is it a 6-month internship? Is it a 9-month internship? Find out from your DSO clearly what the requirement and guidelines state. Do not refer to, say, a friend of mine did this way, hence I'm allowed to do it. No. Every single individual immigration case is unique. So do not use people's experiences and references to make it yours. Always ask the DSO for clarification. If the DSO says it's okay, it is probably okay because you're protected. Ensure you go against the guideline that the DSO outlines. Also, avoid academic violations. Try not to fail classes. It's okay to fail once or twice, but try not to make it a habit of getting in trouble academically. You do not want a violation against you. You want to make sure that you are making good academic progress, is what they call it. So make sure you are progressing through your program. If you fail out, there are some programs that if you fail, if you get some grades consistently, you might be kicked out of the program. Try as much as possible to remain in status by making good academic progress. Get your A's, get your B's, get your C's if you have to, but do not fail out of the program. If you fail out of the program, it's reported to the DSO. The DSO has to cut you off, and you're going to be out of status. Next thing, academics. I've mentioned this before, I think, so I can move ahead. Do not take too many online classes because it's against the law. You cannot replace your full-time study with online classes. Make sure you plan your course load appropriately. Do not take too many classes that you cannot handle. It can become a problem for you. So I know this because I have tried that in the past. It's overwhelming. You have nothing to prove to anybody. Taking 4 classes when everyone is taking 3 classes is not a flex. You are going to fail. And if you fail, you have only yourself to blame. Everyone is on their journey. No one is looking at you. No one is competing with you. Everyone is trying to make it out alive. So make sure you face your front, take as much course load as you can, and deliver on those course loads. Don't do anything beyond that. Just do the bare minimum requirements to pass through, and you'll be fine. The next thing I want to talk about is travel. A lot of people typically say, hey, I want to travel out, I want to go see my parents, I want to go see my wife, even if your wife is not here or you have kids, or you just want to go see family. First and foremost, make sure you have a valid visa. A visa is a document that allows you to come into the country. In this climate, make sure you have a valid visa. So if you intend to travel, not stopping you from travel, if you must travel, have a valid visa. Secondly, you need to get signed authorization from your DSO that you are allowed to travel. So make sure you also travel when school is out of session. Do not wake up in the middle of a semester or a quarter and decide to travel. It can be detrimental if you just travel. The CBP officer that sees you coming back might believe you're not making good academic progress. Emergencies do happen. I'm not saying they don't. I'm not saying you shouldn't travel during an emergency. I'm just telling you that if you don't have to travel, please do not travel. Do not wake up and say you must travel. If the travel is not vital, I would advise you to not travel. That is just my own advice. Again, none of this is legal advice. This is just my opinion. This is just my own experience. If you have to travel, make sure you get the authorized signature from the DSO and make sure you have a valid visa. It is very paramount that you have a valid visa. If your visa is expired and you must travel, be aware that even though you got a signed authorization from your DSO, you will need to go back to your home country and get a visa interview to get a new visa to come back into the country. And this happens even if you're an OPT. Make sure you have a valid visa. Next thing, health and well-being. Please make sure you have healthcare. It is the law that you must be enrolled in healthcare. Do not fight this and do not think that you're not going to be in trouble if you don't. Please make sure you have healthcare. Make sure you have adequate healthcare coverage. And also know that have your emergency contacts. If anything happens to you, God forbid, make sure you have numbers on your phone that someone can reach out to. It's very vital. You can have your DSO number on speed dial. If you're going to be missing classes because you had a medical emergency, you will need to let your DSO know quickly so that they can let the authorities know. So if, for example, you fell ill before an exam, or you had food poisoning, or you had an accident, God forbid, before an exam and you couldn't take it, let the DSO know. Make sure you have emergency contact so people can quickly help you, and make sure you quickly get help. Do not leave it. Do not let it just follow. You probably get in immigration trouble if that happens. The next category is financial preparation. Please make sure that your source of income for your tuition is in place. Do not make up excuses that you cannot pay your tuition. Make sure you have that in place. Make sure you have your bank statements in place for your sponsor. Have it as a copy. This is an interesting time, so make sure you have that with you. You know, the sponsor sponsoring you. It could be a picture of anything. Just make sure you have something that helps you. Also, another thing that I would like to say is have community engagement. And this is important because one of the things that I remember going through under the Trump presidency was when I believe he went after the STEM or the STEM OPT, and he wanted to change that. But he also wanted to change a rule for the H-1B. And one of the processes that they give out is a rulemaking change where you can go in there and type up what your thoughts are. So I remember, I don't think it was Trump, I think it was more of Obama when they were trying to change the rules for STEM OPT, and we had to, enter our views of, why we need to be here. There will be a lot of those rules change coming up in the Trump administration. So I presume the OPT, the STEM OPT, the H-1B rulemaking will be brought up to the public. Be aware of those kind of things. Please participate. It is not illegal. Putting out your voice because you're protecting yourself. You're advocating for yourself. So, make sure you go into those groups and you type up, oh, please keep the OPT, keep the STEM OPT, keep the H-1B. This is how it helps me. That kind of thing. I'm not advocating for physical barricading of places because you want to do some form of protest. Please, I'm not for physical protest. I never join physical protest. Please stay clear of such protests. In this administration, it can be very dicey. It can go both ways. Social media is very powerful. One picture of you carrying a banner, one picture of you carrying a cross, or whatever it is that you want to carry can land you in trouble. Even though the context might be very different, you might have gone there with the best of intentions. Anything right now can be skewed in the wrong direction. So I would say whatever things that you want to advocate for, it will be best for you to do it behind the keyboard and let it be legal ways. Rulemaking process is legal. It's the USCIS that is doing it. Those are the only ways that I would advise personally that you advocate for yourself. And above all, please stay informed. Regularly, please check my channel, Lipro Jakpa. Also, please, I have a podcast that has tons of information for international students, how to get internships, how to get a full-time job and things like that. I'll put the link down below in the comments. Please let me know what you think about this video. Put in your comments. Give me your thoughts. Also, please subscribe, like, and share. And as well, follow the podcast as well. It's on Spotify, it's on Apple, it's Lipro Jakpa, and everywhere that you listen to your podcast. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you have a wonderful one.